All right. Hi, everyone. This is a lightning talk, so I'm going to try to mostly say new things. If you want the basics, last year's Network State talk, great for that. So I'm Patri. I've been trying to drag this idea of startup countries into the mainstream for 20-some years. And in the process of doing this, I've built a festival, a factory, and a fund. And by factory, I mean like you crypto people build factories. I mean a meme factory. So the festival, this is the first thing I put up on the web about these types of ideas. I was into this idea of let's start new countries and experiment with different legal systems. But we were facing this cold start question is who's gonna move themselves and their family to a new jurisdiction with new laws that they've never seen before? That's crazy. I mean, I'm crazy, but that's really crazy. And so I said, well, and then I went to Burning Man, very important. Burning Man is incredible. It's dust to dust. They start with dust, they build a city, one of the 10 largest cities in Nevada, and it ends up as dust. And I thought this was really awesome, but I was I wanted to build towards something. And so I said, well, what if we had a startup society festival where we went out to international waters, flying flags of convenience, and then lived under actually different laws for a week. You can search on YouTube for seasteading documentary. We don't really have time for videos, but this is how things were this year. After 16 years, this is Ephemeral 2024 in the Sacramento Delta. And one thing about it is that the idea was we were gonna be in these inland waterways, and then we were gonna go to the bay and the coast and then offshore where we could actually do this live under a different system thing. But 16 years, we're still in the same place. And so pop-up is amazing. I loved Vitalik's slide earlier, but moving from the pop-up to the reality, don't underestimate how hard it is. I'm finally now, after 16 years, working on Ephemeral offshore with a friend in Austin, aiming to do it in 25 or 26 off of Miami. But that's after 16 years. And part of it is the difficulty of going from consumption to production. Right, is from partying to making things. And I think that this is something that's somewhat true in our pop-up world, is that pop-ups are a bit too consumptive. And I'm really interested to see with Network School, with this idea of investing in and improving yourself, maybe is a bit on the move towards the productive. But don't underestimate, this is ridiculous to say, but how much harder is it to start a society than a party? Probably a lot harder. And then, so in the 2000s, countries weren't at all willing to authorize experimental societies. So I started this thing called seasteading, the idea of building in international waters. And it turns out that the ocean is really hard, but memes are really easy. So seasteading mostly, we mostly haven't built almost anything, but this is a board game. The middle one was a New Zealand art project where Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen and I were these villains, and he did this whole fake board game. On the right, that's a tile from a Civilization 6 expansion. And memes matter, right? I don't have to tell crypto people that you can meme things into reality, and I feel getting the idea out there and how fun it was kind of set the stage, but it's also not the way. This was the peak meme moment.
Finally, a haven as connected to land as libertarians are to reality.
So, always happy. So, the thing that I'm doing now that I'm focusing on that I think is working is these charter cities. So, starting in 2011, Honduras changed their constitution to allow the creation of these autonomous zones. And I worked with them for a while. It took them many years to get it going, but eventually when Prospera started working with them in the late 2010s, and it was actually happening, I started Pronomos, which is the first fund dedicated to this space. We'll skip that. And you've heard a lot about the biomedical, so I'm a living example of this. I have Body by Prospera. My teeth have been modified, my oral microbiome, so I'll never get cavities. I have a chip in my hand that unlocks my Tesla and has my business card. I've had the follistatin gene therapy. I've been doing VO2 max studies, and 3 months of training increased my VO2 max the same amount as 10 days after getting the follistatin. And this last one, we're working on this one. Subdermal LEDs is all I'll tell you for now. There's not time for that. Okay, So what I'm most excited to talk about is a little bit of the learnings now that I've been doing this for 5 years. So what I'm really seeing is I think the Scylla and Charybdis of the space is the cloud and LARPing. And what I mean by the cloud is the cloud is great because it's easy to do things. The barrier to entry are low. It's easy to switch between things. And so we have this incredible innovation in the world of bits. And because of it, maybe this is offensive to network state people, but that's fine. I like being offensive. I feel like when there's cloud or digital aspects to a project, to a land-based project, it sucks people in because it's so much easier. And things move so much faster, and it's so much easier to raise money. And I think the cloud is amazing, but things actually work pretty well and move pretty fast there. And I think that land is this incredible bottleneck. What are the laws we live under? Legal systems are society's operating system. So that's one thing. People get sucked into the cloud, the digital part of it. And then on the other side is LARPing, which is role-playing or cargo cult, which is that the idea of starting new countries is so epic and fun and amazing and awesome and incredibly, incredibly hard to actually do that you're constantly being sucked towards the design the flag and the anthem side of things. I don't know, what are your values as opposed to who are your customers would maybe be one way to think of it. And so it's a constant exercise, however much you're aware of it, to try to be wait, is this actually getting me towards starting a new jurisdiction, or is this something that feels like engaging in the amazing adventure of getting to a new jurisdiction? So I think that those are things that we really need to watch out for. I was 20 years early on this stuff, I guess. The world really was not ready for this stuff until post-COVID and post-crypto. So in my fund, the majority of the money comes from crypto people, because if you think about it, crypto is building private decentralized alternatives to the financial stuff traditionally done by the nation state. And what are we trying to do with startup countries, with charter cities? We're trying to build private decentralized alternatives to the entire nation state. So it's bigger and harder and takes longer, but it's also super, super vibe aligned. So that was really important. And then there's just something about COVID. I have this idea that the 21st century started in 2020, which we were in the 21st century for those first 2 decades, but really in denial about it. Still thinking that the old ways and the old systems would work or could work. And COVID just broke all that. And we're seeing, as you can see with the size of this conference, we're seeing this massive move. We, as Bradford mentioned, we've started this incubated company, Alpha City. And before a year ago, when we started doing this, as opposed to just investing, I was there's not enough founders. I mean, I know it sounds big to start a new jurisdiction, but it's not actually as hard as they think it is. People are scared off, and I just need to tell them that this is happening and people are building it and they won't be. But no, I actually now think that it is at least as hard as people think it is. One of the things about there not being that many experienced founders in the space and having trouble finding people actually willing to take on this huge thing is that actually there's for the first 15 years I did this, countries were not willing to play ball at all, pretty much. And so it's really changed in the past 4 years. There's it happens every couple of months that someone's hey, this country's exploring this, or I can connect you to someone from this country. And I was always yeah, but my founders all have projects already, and there's nobody else wants to do this, so go away. But what we're seeing is there's this great saying, which is that fish swim, birds fly, and deals fall through. And when you're dealing with governments, this is especially true. And so this idea I had of when one company has a good relationship with a country and things are moving forward, that means that you shouldn't send them 5 more countries was just completely wrong. No. You want your pipeline as full as you can so that you can maybe get one to the finish line. And something about where we're at is that we went 0 to 1 with Prospera in 2020. There is not a second charter city yet. I think there's like multiple companies that I think have a good shot in the next 12 months. There's not even a second enabling legislation passed. As Bradford mentioned, like Sao Tome is like looking at legislation right now, so I think there's a chance, but it's been hard. And then the last thing I'll say is that, again, hopefully this will offend people, is that this whole thing about, I think in crypto, everybody is like your investor. If they hold a token, they're an investor. And we're used to thinking of like communities and investors as opposed to like customers. And this like pop-up village and like co-housing community and nomad network idea of like, I'm trying to find my vibe aligned tribe who I would want to like live with in a small house, which is like we all want, I think like really does not fit passing national legislation. And there you need a lot of customers to like amortize it over. So like start tribes, but like don't have tribes be your charter cities. Build charter cities for like anyone who wants to live there. Thank you.